What's good, guys? And today we're looking at Izotope's Vocal Doubler, another free plugin. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Izotope. Anything they put out, the brand in general, I've been using for years, as I'm sure most of you have also. But today it's a very simple plugin. As you guys see, I'm going through a lot of free plugins. I'm going through a lot of simple layouts, but sometimes the free plugins, don't sleep on them. They can be really really good. Don't just think free means they're kind of a quick, plugin that you can't use. I find some of them to be more effective than most. So we're going to take a look. Vocal Doubler. I'm going to run it through a few vocal takes so you guys can see certain techniques I do, and then kind of just talk about the interface in general. All right, let's jump right in.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid anymore.
Okay, so you guys, those who've been following the plugin sessions, I've used this session before. It's sometimes I just want a simple session here in Logic, so we're not kind of getting too caught up with the tracks and stuff. I want to really pay attention to the plugin. So as you guys can see, very unique and kind of simple layout. If you guys are familiar with their Neutron, their Ozone series, and all the stuff that they have put out, you'll start to get used to how their plugins look. You know, this is probably one of the simpler plugins in layout and interface that I've seen, and that's what I love. So this is your dry wet, the pretty much entire mix at 100. Very simple, straightforward. If you want the effect only, you can do that. What I do is mess around with this plugin as much as I can to get certain chorus effects. It enhances a vocal width, obviously, and it creates the double effect. So it creates a lot more of a wider vocal. For example, if we bring this one down, and this is our vocal.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid.
Okay, so what it's taking is it's making two tracks essentially. So you guys can separate them, which you can see here at the bottom left of the plugin. I like just controlling the middle here. You guys can also type the numbers in and whatever you want to do. But if you actually just stay right in here, it's going to do a variation of all their parameters all at once. Besides the dry wet, you guys can control that here. But just to hear today the full-on effect, we won't mess with the dry wet too much. I want you guys to really hear the variation between separating the vocal, and they do variation chorus effects. So let's hear that now. You guys will hear a little bit of phasing, so sometimes you want to back off. And what I recommend is create a secondary track. So for example, we're going to keep our main vocal that does not have the doubler. We're going to keep that as our main one. This will be the doubler track. And I like mixing in whatever I'm doing with the original. For example.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid. Okay,
so let's now just hear the doubler track, but you guys can hear how you would mix that in. And you need to be careful. Sometimes I'll mess with EQing because you really are going to start getting some correlation issues if you aren't really controlling that doubler track. Because realistically, you're creating more tracks even though you're not seeing it. That's what this plugin is doing. So remember that there could be phase cancellation issues. You're going to have to mix it in lightly.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid.
So that being full mono.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid anymore.
It's pretty cool, guys. I mean, realistically, if you think about it, 3 parameters here, 2 or 3 parameters, however you want to look at it. For what it's doing, I'm impressed for such a simple plugin, and again, free. You know, another thing I recommend is doing it on dry vocals. You can get really cool effects out of working with dry. This one's already processed, so you got to remember you're now adding a double of the reverb, you're adding a double of delay, etc., whatever you may have had on that processed vocal. Sometimes that's not going to be the best route for getting the best results. I probably over the years of using this have found working with dry vocals to be a bit more interesting and have more control. So keep that in mind. So now what we want to do is mix this in with the other one. So let's bring it way down in volume. Generally what I like doing is going from the bottom to the top here with the mixer.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid.
So you guys can hear, I'm glad that did that audio issue. You guys can hear when you're pushing that too far. Even like limiter, thinking of that, we've hit the ceiling and we've pushed that too far. It's because we've caused a correlation issue between the doubler track and the original track. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. If you're mixing these too close to each other, they're just going to double up and create a cancellation, and it just sounds like garbage, as you heard there. So you have to be very, very careful and precise with mixing whatever you're doing with the doubler into the original signal. And it can be very minimal. You know, even having this light mix wise is good. dBs of this doubler should be pretty low. I don't want this to overcompensate for the actual lead vocal itself.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not.
And sometimes I'll really EQ this pretty harsh because, again, this will help cutting stuff out for it not to have issues with the main vocal.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. No, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid.
You guys can hear when you do the effect only that enhancement you are getting stereo width wise. It's minimal, sure, but it is doing enough that I would use this plugin for this instance. Another thing you guys can look at, guys, Izotope gives you vocal tips. You can look at that. As always, the bypass button, I actually have it in Logic there too. They don't have any presets for you guys for this one. I would just go to the vocal tips if you're new to it, and they can tell you kind of exactly what we're talking about, separation versus the variation. It's different chorus effects. It's different enhancement of creating that doubler. So it's kind of cool, the back end of this plugin. So make sure you go to the tips section if you want to look at that. Aside from that, guys, let's just bypass back and forth so we can hear the difference. And that's pretty much it for today because of how simple this plugin is. I'm not going to go on and on because you guys definitely get it that experimenting with this one will go a long way.
No, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid.
It's a lot wider there with the doubler track on. And again, mess with working with dry vocals. I'll say that again because I do have better results, I notice, because you really start getting messy with production if you are really pushing wider tracks of reverbs and delays. That's kind of a whole nother animal that you're opening up mix wise. Correlation we've talked about, possible phase issues. So take your time with doing a dry vocal with the doubler and create different tracks, then pan them, control them separately. You know, if I were to use this specific setting of the doubler, I would print this down to another audio track and I would control that separately, and I would do a couple more rather than just using it on this one, doing variations or automating. I would create different prints of audio so I can control them a bit more. Very cool plugin, guys. Again, it's free. Go check it out on Izotope's website. It's definitely something I use all the time. And don't think free aren't good, good plugins, because a lot of them are better than paid plugins. So take a look and don't forget that. Izotope website, go check it out. Vocal doubler. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.
Feel it there.